The city of dreams, Jadoo Nagari, maximum city. मुंबई के कई सारे नाम हैं, but this maximum city also generates maximum waste, which is almost 9,000 tons daily. और ये कचरा फेंक दिया जाता है into 3 open garbage dumps. और उनमें से एक है Deonar dumping ground, which is also Asia's largest. Established in 1927, the Deonar dumping ground spreads across 132 hectares and receives around 3,000 metric tons of garbage every day.
It should have been closed in 40 years, which is the norm across the globe. An open landfill doesn't continue beyond 4 decades. Obviously, it hasn't happened in this case.
For 90 years, the municipality has been dumping unsegregated garbage here in a haphazard manner. Plastic, metal, construction waste, e-waste, you name it, it's all there. When this inorganic waste mixes with organic waste, like leftover food, paper or wood, it breaks down to generate toxic gases. Methane is highly flammable and can lead to explosions and fires.
मुंबई के देवनार डंपिंग ग्राउंड में बीती रात फिर आग लग गई। इस आग से आसपास के लोग बेहद परेशान हैं।
और इस आग के पीछे माफिया की साजिश भी देखी जा रही है।
The only thing that was different was probably the wind was blowing from here to the city. So the people living in city became suddenly aware of the fire.
Fires are of larger intensity this time. That's why everyone was scared. It was such a big magnitude that even the airport authority said that while planes are flying on this, tourism season was there from January and there was smoke everywhere in Mumbai. The pollution level increased. Next year is the election. There are so many things came together.
देवनार डंपिंग ग्राउंड के आसपास लगभग 6 लाख लोग रहते हैं और इनके सेहत को हमेशा खतरा रहता है।
People who have to live here, they obviously suffer throughout the year. They inhale the same amount, same kind of air, and that's problematic.
The incidence of interstitial lung disease in the elderly age group is very high in Chembur and Ghatkopar area. In the month of January, when we had this smoke which was emitted all over, I had my ICU which was full because of people having respiratory problems. It's a fundamental right to have fresh air and oxygen for breathing, and this is the air and oxygen which our government and our people are giving us.
Probably there is typical middle class apathy that we become conscious or aware of a problem only when it begins to hurt us.
These are protesters in Deonar area of Mumbai who are now protesting the smog that has resulted after the fire.
They do not have a mechanism to stop fire. They do not have a proper scientific solid waste management system. We want the dumping ground to be shut down.
We cannot overnight, just because we feel the quality of air that we breathe has worsened, close it down. There has to be some planning, and there has to be enough consideration for the people who have actually been cleaning your city.
Most of the garbage is dumped here. The rag pickers rush in to collect recyclable material and sell them to scrap dealers. After spending about 8 to 12 hours inside the stinking ground, a rag picker barely earns 200 to 400 rupees a day. According to the NGOs working in these areas, up to 4,500 people living here are involved in rag picking.
हम जो कूड़ा छटिंग करते हैं, बीएनसी वाले का ही काम करते हैं ना, दूसरे कूड़ा डंप होता है, हम ये कूड़ा हटा के उनको जगह बना के देते हैं।
डंपिंग बंद हो जाएगी तो मैडम कितनी पब्लिक भूखे मर जाएंगे मालूम है। एक दिन जाएंगे ना उनके घर का चूल्हा नहीं जलता है। डंपिंग बंद करना है तो पहला इन लोगों को काम धंधे पे लगाओ, जब डंपिंग बंद करो।
Deonar dumping ground is also center for collection of high value trashes and garbage. It attracts many people who are staying around.
It's not just garbage that makes people live around the Deonar dumping ground. Since the 1950s, the slums of Shivaji Nagar, Rafiq Nagar, Shanti Nagar and Beganwadi were used by authorities to house poor population. Slum dwellers that were displaced from places like South Mumbai, Worli, Parel and Bandra due to the emergence of high-rise buildings and shopping malls have made these their home. People who have been driven out by poverty and drought from rural Maharashtra and states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Karnataka have also migrated here.
So you must be in an absolutely dire state to migrate. And then if you feel that Rafi Nagar is your ticket to Mumbai, part of it is actually on the dumping ground and the sewage, then I can only imagine the helplessness that you must be feeling.
Research conducted by Tata Institute of Social Sciences reveals that Shivaji Nagar and other areas around Deonar have the lowest human development index in Mumbai. The literacy rate here is little above 66%, which is much lower than India's average. Most of the rag pickers are unskilled labourers. The average life expectancy here is just 39 years. Out of 1,000 babies born here, 66 die before reaching the age of 1, while every second child that survives is underweight. This is not only worse than India's average, but worse than some African countries like Uganda, Togo, and Sudan. In 2014, the Maharashtra government legalized slums built before the year 2000. However, people are still deprived of basic amenities like water and electricity.
There may be some short supply area, but water provision is there all over the area around the Deonar. We provide them all other basic minimum facility required, like road is there, school is there, dispensary is there. It is not like they are totally isolated from basic municipal infrastructure and provisions.
एक तो इधर 10 रुपए फुग्गा पानी मिलता है, तो 4 फुग्गा लाओ तो 40 रुपए चला जाता है। कहाँ से लाने का इतना पैसा? क्या काम करेंगे सरकार लोग? देखो उनका कोई नेता मर जाए तो कितनी पब्लिक वो लोग क्या क्या करते हैं। गरीब के लोग कोई कुछ करने वाला है क्या?
Average income here is about 8,000 rupees per month. Of that, 20 to 30% is spent in as basic things as electricity or water, which is much more than what the Mumbai middle class would spend, for instance.
In the house, one person is earning and 7 to 8% they are depending on the one person. The psychology of child becomes like that. Now I have to earn money for my family. So they have the morning school and the timing of the water is morning. So child has to get up early in the morning, he has to take the cycle. You imagine a child of 11 years is carrying more than 100 kgs of water.
6 years after declaring education as a fundamental right, this place does not have government schools beyond class 8th.
The responsibility of MCGM is to provide primary education as per the act, but then still we are providing up to 8th standard.
चौथी पढ़ के छोड़ दिए हम लोग। सुबह उठ के फिर हम लोग खाड़ी चले आते 5 बजे, फिर आते 7 बजे चुन चान के, फिर बेचते माल, फिर यहाँ मस्ती करते रहते, खेलते रहते।
For basic things, poor people have to spend more because you're not saving enough to invest in education, for instance. You're not saving enough to send your child through college or university.
Despite BMC being the richest municipality in India and having spent over 8,000 crores on solid waste management in the last 5 years, Mumbai ranked 140th in a 2015 cleanliness survey of 476 cities of India. इंडिया में सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के रूल्स सन 2000 में लागू किए गए। These rules oblige citizens and commercial entities to segregate waste at source and municipalities to collect and dispose waste in a scientific manner. This means that only non-recyclable, hazardous and construction waste should be reaching the open landfills, while organic waste can be processed into energy and dry waste should be sent to recycling centers. Therefore, there were plans to close a large portion of the Deonar landfill and then build a waste-to-energy plant. For this, in 2009, the BMC awarded the contract to United Phosphorus Limited, the company which had earlier closed the Gorai landfill in the western suburbs of Mumbai, turning it into a green zone.
Contractor were supposed to close the dumping ground in phases and handle the incoming garbage scientific way. But then he failed in closing the dumping ground. Compost he could not do. Without treating it, he was dumping.
कम से कम 22 मशीन थी, फॉकलैंड थे, डोजर थे, बहुत मशीन थी। अभी 10 मशीन चलाने का, उसमें 6 मशीन चलाते थे, 4 मशीन खड़ा करते थे, 10 मशीन का लॉकसेट बना के दे देते थे बीएमसी को, तो बीएमसी 10 लॉकसेट का पैसा पास करके देती थी।
Garbage van is supposed to be filled up to a particular level. Instead of filling it up to a particular level, it is underfilled. The payment to the contractor goes on the number of round strips that they have taken. So instead of filling it to say 10, they fill it up to 5. They make double the trips. So they get double the amount. That is how a large amount of money, about 500 crores which is sanctioned, is not adequately utilized. And yet we have garbage all over the city.
The ugly nexus among some bureaucrats, private contractors, criminals and politicians obstructs the smooth functioning of the waste management system. Media investigations conducted in the aftermath of the fire exposed a garbage mafia operating in the Deonar dumping ground.
One of the contractors' person was even slashed by a sword So they had fear for their lives and they could not move ahead.
It was responsibility of the contractor to provide security for their own person. It is his own responsibility. He should have provided proper security. He should have taken the case to police.
Despite multiple attempts, UPL Limited could not be reached for comments. Their contract expired on the 30th of January 2016, after which the BMC took over the operations and management of the Deonar dumping ground.
This transit period from the contractor to MCGM was, of course, very painful. There were a lot of action taken by police because of recent fire incidents. Now you will find that there is 100% control of administration.
पुलिस की गाड़ी आई बोलते तो बोले ये धुआं जल रहा, तुम्हारे को इससे कुछ तकलीफ नहीं है क्या? चलो पुलिस चौकी में डॉक्टर है, खून चेकअप कराने का है। 13 लोग कुछ दिन गाड़ी भर के वो लोगों ने लेके गए। ऊपर से दबाव आया, हम क्या करेंगे? हम भी जानते कि आप बेकसूर हैं। ऐसा पुलिस वाले गाड़ी में खुद बोले, सबको बिठा के अथर रोड लेके चले गए। अकेला घर में कमाने वाला है, कोई नहीं है, बीवी उसके 3 बच्चे हैं, मैं है, बहन है। 15 दिन के कस्टडी में है, बोले फिर आ जाएंगे। और आज 1.5 महीना होगा, कोई सुनवाई नहीं है, कुछ मारा मारी नहीं, कुछ नहीं, क्या नहीं। आग लगाई, जिसकी रोजी है उसको आग लगा के क्या खाएंगे आदमी, बताओ।
These are poor little people, you know, they can't fight, they can't raise a voice. But actually, why the BMC officer is not accountable and why he is not put behind bars?
During fire incidents, it was MCGM, solid waste management officers and fire brigade officer who controlled the fire all the time. So there is no question of taking action on solid waste management officers and personnel.
Ultimately, solid waste management is the responsibility of municipal corporation. They have failed in that. But people also fail. When your income increases, garbage increases, and your attitude towards garbage and the attitude towards the people working in the garbage also changes.
We assume that there is somebody who will clear my garbage. We also assume that there is a place where I can throw my garbage. That's how Deonar has happened. That's why rag pickers, so-called, continue in this profession.
Nobody should be waste picker. People should realize that. If you say, please segregate, then people say, oh, we don't have time. But you tell them, keep separate, dry and wet, and now hazardous. All the 3 waste.
When you go abroad, you follow the rules and regulations of that country. You will not throw a piece of paper here and there. Why not follow it in our own country? Why not start the process of cleanliness in your own house?
The people in their own family cannot segregate even 1 kilo of waste. Then how they expect municipality to segregate 8,000 tons of waste?
Till we are not able to convince the people to be, to do segregation at source, then we have to do something in the interim part. Deonar will have a waste to energy plant. So today the waste which is being dumped there will not be dumped. It will be used for generating electricity. So it will be scientific disposal of that waste.
Let's assume that the BMC is successful in converting the Deonar dumping ground into a scientific one. What about the people whose livelihoods depend on this dumping ground?
The moment the work of the plant starts, both skilled and unskilled labor will be required by the operator who is setting up the plant. Easiest, cheapest and the most effective sourcing will be from the local populace. We have to do these bigger projects because that will give us not only scientific disposal of waste, better environment compliance, and at the same time it will generate some wealth for us. So for a country like India, it cannot afford to lose public wealth at any point of time and at any point of in the continuum.
Above all, rag pickers can lead a life of dignity. So before you use and throw, think of where it's coming from and where it's going to go.